Steve Harrington went from school bully to the most beloved character in the entire Stranger Things. Here's every time Steve Harrington saved the day.
I want to help.
Starting off with a time when Steve literally does a 1v1 with this monster to save Nancy and Jonathan. It all starts up when Nancy and Jonathan were setting up a trap for the monster, but suddenly their door knocks and it's none other than Steve. He wanted to apologize to Nancy about all the things he did, and when he saw blood on Nancy's hand, he got more angry and started fighting with Jonathan. But suddenly the lights started flickering, meaning the nightmare of Hawkins is coming. And out of nowhere, the Demogorgon tears the ceiling and comes down. The entire group in shock runs and hides in a room, but after waiting there for a long time, they thought that the monster had left, and Steve also decides to make a run for it. But just when he was about to run, he sees that the lights are flickering again, meaning that the monster is coming once again, and this time, there will be only Nancy and Jonathan. Then while fully prepared, but the monster sneaks up behind Jonathan and holds him down. But when Nancy shoots the monster, he runs towards her, and to make things even worse, the bullets in Nancy's gun runs out. We all thought that this is it for both of them, but out of nowhere, our King Steve makes an entry with his nail bat and beats the crap out of the monster and eventually traps him. After the incident, Nancy and Jonathan were shocked about Steve's fighting skills, and finally, Jonathan lit the monster up on fire. Now, moving on to the time where Steve fights even a greater threat than this monster, Billy. Everything begins at the buyer's house. Steve is watching over the kids, while the others are on their way to close the gate to the Upside Down. Earlier, the group made a plan to distract the demodogs by setting fire to the tunnels underneath the pumpkin fields. Steve had just one job to do, and that was to make sure the kids are safe. So, he refuses to go and says, just stay here. But he didn't know that even staying there can be dangerous. Trouble shows up at the front door in the form of Billy Hargrove. He was sent by his father to find Max, and he is furious because she disappeared without permission. Billy's already in a rage before he even steps inside. Steve tries to block Billy from coming in. He's calm at first, trying to keep the situation from escalating. Billy asks Steve if Max was at the house, to which Steve replies, she isn't here. But to make things worse, he sees Max watching through the window. That's when Billy pushes Steve and kicks him. After knocking him out, Billy enters the house and threatens Lucas, just when he's about to punch him. Our King Steve shows up and punches him right then and there, making him bleed. He was able to dodge and punch him a few more times, but since Steve was exhausted, Billy was able to defeat him in the fight, beating him brutally. Just as things are about to go too far, Max takes control. While Billy's back is turned, she grabs a syringe from the kitchen and stabs it into Billy's neck. He stumbles and collapses, groaning in pain. Now, even though Steve didn't defeat him in a 1 versus 1, he was able to make sure that none of the kids got hurt, and that's what matters. Now, moving on to the time when Steve uses himself as a bait for the safety of the entire crew. Everything starts off after realizing that Dart, the small Demogorgon creature Dustin secretly kept as a pet, has grown into a dangerous demodog. The kids come up with a risky plan. They want to trap Dart and possibly learn more about what's happening with the Upside Down. The plan is simple, but dangerous. Lure Dart into the open using raw meat, trap him in the junkyard, and hopefully contain him. The kids hide inside an old, rusted-out school bus in the middle of the junkyard, and on the other hand, Steve volunteers to stay outside. He's armed with a nail-covered baseball bat, a weapon that's now become his signature. Even though he's not a trained fighter, Steve takes on the role of protector and waits for something to come out of the dark. Soon, he hears growling in the distance. At first, it's just Dart, but then more shapes begin to move through the fog. 3 more demodogs emerge from the shadows. Now there are 4 in total, and they're all fully grown. They surround Steve. Steve doesn't run, even though he's completely outnumbered. Suddenly, one of the demodogs lunges at him. Steve swings the bat hard and connects, knocking it back. But he fights with everything he's got because everyone's life was on the line. Inside the bus, the kids are panicking. They scream for Steve and try to help by yelling directions eventually. Steve manages to make it back inside the bus with them, but it doesn't mean they're safe. The demodogs don't stop. They slam into the sides of the bus and start to shake the bus and crawl through the openings. The kids and Steve do everything they can to hold the doors shut. When demodogs come from above in front of Max, scaring the However, Steve comes in front of everyone to save them with the same bat but covered with nail wires this time. The demodogs did run away at that time, which gave them a sense of relief, but we know the reason they ran away was because the mind flayer summoned them to protect the hive, as the guards of Hawkins' lab were destroying the veins of the Upside Down. If you thought that was Steve's major feat, then you're completely wrong, because there's a time that he saves 11 from dying. You see, after discovering that the Upside Down is spreading beneath Hawkins through a network of underground tunnels, the group decides it's time to act. 11 has just reunited with the others and realizes she's the only one powerful enough to close the gate to the Upside Down, the source that's keeping the Demogorgons alive and allowing the Mind Flayer to control them. Meanwhile, Dr. Ovens gives Hopper and 11 security clearance and directions through the lab to the main gate chamber. Their job is to get there and seal it. At the same time, a parallel plan is unfolding above and below Hawkins. Dustin, Lucas, Max, and Mike gear up to help weaken the Mind Flayer's hold. Steve Harrington, now the kid's unlikely protector, leads them to the underground tunnels. Now, even though Steve was against this plan, he ended up leading them. The group sneaks into the tunnels with jugs of gasoline, and the deeper they go, the more dangerous it feels. Meanwhile, Hopper and 11 descend deeper into the Hawkins lab. They reach the massive gate chamber, and 11 steps forward to close it. At one point, they're surrounded. Demodogs swarm from every direction. That's when Steve and the kids set the tunnel on fire, sending shockwaves through the underground network. Now, their target was not 11, it was Steve who literally lit up the tunnel, and with that he ends up saving 11. Moving on to the time when Steve fights trained Russian soldiers to save Robin. Everything begins deep underneath Starcourt Mall. Steve and the gang have discovered a secret Russian laboratory. The Russians are using this underground base to open a gate to the Upside Down, and our group is trying to uncover their plans, but in the process, Steve and Robin get captured by Russian soldiers. They're taken to an interrogation room where a Russian officer demands to know who they are and who sent them. Steve tries to bluff his way out of it, but it doesn't work, so the Russians inject both Steve and Robin with a truth serum, leaving them dazed and disoriented. After the questioning, 2 Russian soldiers escort Steve and Robin down a hallway, presumably to lock them up or dispose of them. But despite the drugs in their systems, Steve starts to fight back. He's still dizzy and barely able to stand. One of the Russian soldiers quickly recovers and starts beating Steve down, landing heavy punches. Steve is knocked to the ground, bloodied and bruised. Robin joins in, trying to help. She kicks and yells, but she's just as drugged and disoriented as Steve. The soldiers quickly overpower both of them. It's clear they're trained and physically superior. Steve puts up a fight not because he thinks he can win, but because he refuses to go down without trying to protect Robin. Just when things look hopeless, Dustin and Erica break in. Erica sneaks up behind one of the soldiers and zaps him with a taser, taking him down instantly. Dustin jumps in to help pull Steve and Robin to their feet. Then the 4 of them run down the hallway deeper into the Russian base, trying to escape before backup arrives. Now, moving on to the time where Steve saved everyone with a car, things were looking really bad. The Mind Flayer had trapped the crew inside the Starcourt Mall. 11 was badly hurt, her leg was infected, and she could barely walk. The creature was smashing through the mall, trying to get to them. The group was cornered and were hiding. Meanwhile, Dustin was up on a hill with Susie, trying to help the team by giving them Planck's constant so they could open a safe, but even from far away, he could tell something was wrong. Just as the Mind Flayer was about to strike, headlights suddenly burst through the darkness. Steve and Robin came crashing in with Billy's car, speeding through the mall entrance like a scene out of an action movie. They swerved in fast, honking and flashing lights to distract the monster away from the kids, and it worked. The Mind Flayer turned its attention toward the noise, giving the group a chance to escape. Thanks to Steve's quick thinking and fearless driving, the kids got a chance to get 11 out safely. Eventually, Joyce and Hopper shut down the Russian gate machine underneath the mall, which caused the Mind Flayer to collapse and die, since its connection to the Upside Down was severed. Steve didn't defeat the monster by fighting it, he saved the day by showing up exactly when they needed him most, risking his life just to buy his friends a few precious seconds. Moving on, when Steve volunteers himself to again become a bait, you see the group is trying to find a gate to the Upside Down, and they believe there might be one underwater in Lover's Lake, since that's where Patrick died earlier. Steve volunteers to check it out first. He takes off his shirt, grabs a flashlight, and dives into the lake while the others wait in the boat. Underwater, Steve actually finds the gate. It's glowing and pulsing like a portal hidden in the dark water. But before he can swim back up, tentacles from the gate grab him and pull him into the Upside Down. The others panic when Steve doesn't come back, and without hesitation, Nancy jumps in after him, followed by Robin and Eddie. That moment shows how close and loyal they've all become. In the Upside Down, Steve is attacked by demobats, creepy flying monsters. He's fighting for his life, scratched and bleeding, but just in time, Nancy, Robin, and Eddie arrive to help him fight them off. By the end of the scene, Steve is badly hurt but alive, thanks to the group's teamwork and quick action. He doesn't just survive, he also helped them discover a new gate and showed, once again, that he's always willing to risk himself to protect others. Now, this moment is my favorite because Steve actually saves everyone from his quick thinking. You see, the Hawkins crew carries out a daring, multi-layered plan to finally stop Vecna. While Eleven enters Max's mind from a sensory deprivation tank in California to fight Vecna mentally, Steve, Nancy, and Robin go on a dangerous mission into the Upside Down to find and attack Vecna's real, physical body, which is hiding inside the cursed Creel house. Time is running out because the more time Vecna has, the closer he gets to killing Max and opening the fourth gate that will tear Hawkins apart. After barely surviving attacks from the living vines earlier, they finally make it to the attic where Vecna's body is levitating, eyes rolled back, completely consumed by the psychic battle he's waging in Max's mind. Steve acts fast, he lights the Molotov cocktail and hurls it at Vecna's body. The glass shatters and the fire erupts, engulfing Vecna in flames. The fire breaks Vecna's focus just enough that Max, who was about to die, is suddenly released from his grip, and her body drops from the air. But the fight isn't over yet. Robin follows Steve by throwing a second Molotov, adding more fire to the attack, and then Nancy steps up with a sawed-off shotgun, blasting Vecna multiple times while he burns. His body crashes through the attic window and falls to the ground below, and they rush down to check, but when they get there, he's gone. Even though they don't kill him for good, Steve's actions are a turning point in the fight. It's one of Steve Harrington's most heroic moments. Now, these were the times where Steve saved the day. If you want to watch more videos and Stranger Things, then click in any of these videos.